Duncan Pieterse, Head of Asset and Liability Management at the National Treasury, says extensive recapitalization initiatives through government loan guarantees for state-owned companies are becoming a growing financial risk. Although Eskom accounted for our 331.2 billion recapitalization fund between 2014 and 2023, 55% recapitalization fund, it is part aggregate state-owned companies that are in serious financial trouble and need more money from government to continue. In his presentation to Standing Committee on Public Accounts on Tuesday, March 14, Pieterse said there has been a significant decline in the performance of large state companies over past decade as operating costs have risen and net profits have fallen. And debt levels became increasingly unsustainable. He said state-owned companies have faced inadequate fiscal policies and a lack of adequate oversight and accountability since 2012. Customers are also complaining of an increasingly low level of service delivery. Compensation costs, overall, far outstripped the growth of these businesses and became a major factor in reducing net profit or loss. Multiple bailouts from Eskom, South African Airways, South African Broadcast Corporation, Post Office and others have become a financial burden. And high debt levels have increased financial risk to unacceptable levels and hindered significant social and other spending. Billions of dollars have been routinely spent on businesses, which are sinking into the ground, through guarantee loans over the past year. Governments can provide collateral loans to public institutions under the Constitution, only if the collateral complies with regulatory requirements. Collateral is essentially the obligation of beneficiaries to meet their financial obligations, such as repayment or interest payments. These guarantees were first issued to allow public institutions to borrow from the strength of their balance sheets and be used in exceptional circumstances. However, exceptions are becoming more common and the frequency and value of guarantees remains high in South Africa. Government exposure contingent liabilities from public institutions is expected to reach our 396.1 billion this year, according to the National Treasury. The Financial Authority added that the level and quality of risk exposure has decreased. The table below shows value of the guarantees and amount awarded to embattled government companies. The table below shows the 5 largest recapitalization projects in South Africa so far. How much does it all cost Eskom? Prior to this year, Eskom received billions of recapitalizations and was unabated. Due to the company's financial situation, a special appropriations bill was urgently tabled late last year, allocating an additional 230 billion rupees in support. The government provided 158.6 billion, 56 billion rupees and 21.9 billion for 2019-20, 2020-21, 2021-22 and 2022-23, respectively. In the latest budget, Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana proposed a 2-component debt relief arrangement that would cost another 256 billion. South African Airways, when the company entered the bailout business in 2019, 22.8 billion rupees was provided for recapitalization. The Treasury later said that another rupees 16.4 billion was allocated for the period of 2020. In 2020-21, another rupees 10.5 billion was provided to the company for the business recovery plan. In its latest budget speech, Godognwaa announced rupees 1 billion for the fulfillment of its outstanding business recovery process obligations. SAA will have received direct government funding of 50.7 billion Indonesian rupiah from 2007 to 2022, of which 48.4 billion rupees has been received in the last 10 years. Airports Company South Africa. The pandemic has caused company to face a 92% drop in the number of customers and therefore rupees 2.3 billion has been allocated to mitigate impact. Transnet. The most recent special appropriate law provided Transnet 2.9 billion rupees to accelerate locomotive repair and maintenance. The Treasury later awarded a further rupees 2.9 billion to the National Logistics and Shipping Company to restore infrastructure from the KwaZulu-Natal flood. South African National Highways Agency (SOC) Ltd last year, under the Gauteng Highway Improvement Programme, which includes e-toll fees, the country's road agency was allocated Rs 23.7 billion to meet its ever-increasing debt and debt-related obligations. South African Broadcasting Corporation, the national publishing business, has faced severe liquidity constraints over the past few years, with 3.2 billion rupees allocated in 2019-20 through a contingency reserve. South African Post Office, after its subsidy was cut in 2013, the Post Office needed R7.9 billion to recapitalize and cover the debt. Despite money provided, the company's outdated business model resulted in government approving a recapitalization of R2.4 billion. Tridinel was experiencing liquidity solvency problems, was awarded 1.8 billion Indonesian rupiah, 576 million Indonesian rupiah in 201,922,02021, respectively. An additional RPI 3.4 billion has been allocated to help the business complete its turnaround plan in 2022-23. The Treasury said it has provided company with roughly Rs 3.3 billion more to cover the payment of maturing bonds and related interest payments. South African Private Risk Insurance Association. Following July riots, the company was given R22 billion by government as recapitalization guarantees. Land Bank. The Treasury said that between 2013 and 2023, Land Bank received R13.6 billion bailouts to address its liquidity deficits and boost its worsening capital position. South African Development Bank. Between 2014 and 2016, DBSA received a total injection of Rs 7.9 billion to support its turnaround strategy and restructuring. Read National Shutdown planned for next week, what you need to know.